So, welcome again to the panel discussion now with the members of the core team, CAS Rebuild Ukraine. We want you to meet these persons and learn more about their motivation and their competencies. Oksana, we have added to this panel. She's Oksana Marusenko as representative of the Hub Rebuild Ukraine, and she's one of our students' team's coach. I would like to start with Mariana. Mariana Melnikovic, she's now the director of the CAS Rebuild Ukraine. She is an environmental researcher with PhD in economics of natural resource use and environmental protection. She works at HAFL, that's the School of Agricultural and Forest and Food Science. She has experience as consultant on ecosystem restoration and capacity building in CCA and Eastern Europe. Mariana, the topic of our panel is building back better. What would you like to see from your perspective on this? What does it mean from your perspective, building back better?
From my perspective, I mean, as an environmental researcher, right, and as a person who always work on the environment, society, and governance interaction. So for me, building back better would mean to improve all those ecosystems. So first, build capacity of the society to be resilient, to be innovative, to be resilient in terms of good governance, in terms of making these bottom-up initiatives, to bring to Ukraine also modern technologies. So we are energy independent, we are net zero, we are at least aiming at this net zero concept and approaches. Also, from my perspective, I mean, we saw today from our director, Professor Seeling, that presented these numbers, how much and how many environmental natural land damage and agriculture, forest. So, and from myself, it would be very important that we do not forget environment. We do focus on green recovery. Sustainability for me is the really key. Sustainability and circularity.
Okay, that would be even better than before, yeah?
Should be.
Should be. I forgot something, but thank you, Mariana. I forgot something. I have to say who I am. I'm Miriam Sick. I'm sorry to say that. My name is Miriam Sick. I'm an engineer. I'm expert in energy technology. I'm now also working for STC as a water, sanitation, hygiene specialist. But now we are going back and we come to Thomas. Thomas, actually, we could have started with Thomas because he's really the initiator of the CAS, and I think that requires an extra applause. Thomas Rohner. Thomas has been professor for timber constructions and BIM at the Bern University of Applied Science, and he started as a carpenter. I just want to say that because we had some discussion about vocational training and what it means. So that's your start with timber construction, is very hands-on, yeah? Yep. He then became engineer in timber buildings, digitalization, and he also worked as a manager, for example, for Coratle. And most of all, I would like to say, Thomas really is a very skilled communicator and networker. He is a people's person. Now, and he was, of course, our first director of the CAS. I appreciate very much how you took care that it gets further and handed over. And Thomas, now the question goes to you. What does it mean from your perspective, building back better?
Thank you, Miriam. I mean, Ukraine has an incredible, rich history and in culture and in building culture. But there are also a lot of, let's say, block buildings of Russian architecture. And the chance now to rebuild Ukraine, the country virtually, let's say, on a greenfield side, is a huge opportunity. In my opinion, a lot of female spirit, the female design and the female power, as I already mentioned, must flow into the reconstruction. For this reason, we focused the CAS Rebuild Ukraine on women. Not exclusively, we have also 3 wonderful men here among the students, but most of them are women. And I think this issue of reconstruction should be shown in the entirety. So technically, organizationally, ecologically, economically, and above all, socially. And sustainability and circular economy should be the basic concept. Then it will work.
Thank you, Thomas. So now we have more sustainable, more female. Olena Tutova. She's the next one in this row. I would like to introduce her. She's an engineer. She's a researcher at ETH Zurich at Climate Policy Lab, an expert on energy efficiency and renewable energy with a particular interest in climate change and sustainable building technologies. She has long years of experience as a consultant for investment programs and projects in the field of sustainable, low energy consumption cities and energy efficient buildings in Ukraine. She's very well connected in Ukraine. So what would it mean from your point of view, Olena, building back better?
Thank you, Miriam, for the question. As for me, the most important is not to waste a chance. As for now, we have a chance to build our country in the best way, and we are responsible for that. Each of us responsible for this rebuilding of Ukraine. And as I say before on other meetings and forums, that I believe that each and every of us is like a brick in the house that we will build, and we're responsible for the better future of our country. So the chance that's given to us to use the best available technologies and approaches are the crucial in this point. So it's not just about sustainability and energy independency. It's about each sector in our Ukraine. And I believe that we, as a team of Ukrainians here in Switzerland, can bring this better approach to Ukraine using our skills and knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olena. We come to this side of the panel. Irina Czernisch, she's a researcher at BFH Business School, and she's an economist and professor working on entrepreneurship and crowdfunding scientific project. So she's more from the economic background. Her experience is tourism, regional development, startup creation and sustainable development. And Irina, now that's a new perspective. Now, what do you think, what do you mean with building back better?
Thank you so much, Miriam, for introduction, such kind words. And, first of all, for me, from the economic perspective, because I'm an economist, and everywhere I can see just some economical parts and issues and what can be done or what shouldn't be done at all. Anyway, it's about social sciences, because economics is a social science. It's building a new mindset For someone, for kids, it's building new mindset. For their parents and mostly grandparents, it's pushing towards changing a mindset. Not just rebuilding better, not just bringing sustainable technologies, but to a wise mindset. It's rebuilding better in sustainable way with new technologies. It's enjoying where you live and what you have and preserving it for future generations. That's for me.
Great, thank you. I would perhaps give this a little bit the word social innovation. That's your topic, yeah. I would like now to come to Olena Melnik. She is a senior researcher at ETH Zurich and visiting professor at the Royal Agricultural University in UK. And she's also professor at the Ukrainian Agricultural University, SNAU. So that already points a little bit to the field on which she is working. Her research includes EU climate policies, developing solutions for the rational, sustainable use of natural resources, waste management, green farming. I would like to say that Olena really is working on a very relevant project. She's project manager of a project on demining and remediation of the destroyed agricultural land in Ukraine. This is together with the Royal University in the UK and together with SNAU. We agreed that she will inform about this project after this panel discussion. So we will finish a little bit earlier and give her 10 minutes to talk especially about that project. In our panel, you will rather focus on climate policy. What is your idea, Olena, about building back better?
Thank you, Miriam. I would like to say that for me, build back better, first of all, build back greener. Because we do need to understand that our nature has already suffered a lot because of the war action. And we cannot sacrifice our nature trying to build faster, trying to build cheaper. We do need to understand and to be in compliance with all the commitments that were taken before the war. I mean, according to Green Deal, according to Paris Agreement, according to Sustainable Development Goals. So that we should take them and we should build up all that we are going to build up on the base of all these commitments to the civilized world and European Union.
Thank you very much, Olena. Now, last but not least, we come to Oksana Marusenko. She's co-founder of the Swiss Invest Network, together with Swiss Business Partner, and of the Hub Rebuild for Swiss investments in Ukraine. She's a lawyer and government relations specialist, and she's legislative expert with over 20 years of professional experience in Ukrainian parliament. Oksana has participated in many international projects for reforming of Ukrainian legislation with support of UN, USAID, Swiss and EU institutions. And Oksana is also coach of one of our teams. Oksana, from your point of view as a lawyer, what does it mean to you, building back better?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say that war in Ukraine, Russian aggression, military aggression against Ukraine, and occupation of Ukrainian territory is big tragedy to our country, to Ukraine and to Ukrainian people. And first of all, I want to say thanks a lot for Switzerland, for Swiss government, for Swiss people, for Swiss university and Swiss business to support Ukraine. And I want to say that this strategy is for Ukraine is opportunity, is chance to build new country of our dream. And here at this Lugano Business Forum, I hear idea, thought that rebuilding Ukraine will be new, and not will be, is new national idea of Ukraine. And this idea will connect all Ukrainian people in different countries and all international support will connect with Ukraine. When we're talking about rebuilding Ukraine, we're talking not only about reconstruction, destroyed apartment building, houses, or about reconstruction of destroyed object on infrastructure. We're talking about strategy and about complex rebuilding of our country. And of course, we have question how rebuild. I think with the best new technology, innovation, with the eco principle, with sustainable principle, and of course, with what we can rebuild, with money, with investment from Switzerland, from different countries, for bring investment to Ukrainian rebuilding project. We especially organize Hub Rebuild Ukraine to invite Swiss investors and international investors. And with we must create new legislation and new rules. As a lawyer, and as a legislative expert in my long time working in parliament, I can say that Ukraine working, create a lot of reforms, and now time to finish this reform and have a result of this reform. And a very important moment, this is with what we can do rebuilding. This is human research and education. And CAAS Rebuilding Ukraine help us to have this knowledge, to have this Swiss experience, secret of Swiss successful story, and bring this to Ukraine.
Thank you, Oksana. And you mentioned legislation. And I would like to ask Olena, could carbon investments become an instrument for reconstruction and sustainable development? How could it be? How could legislation help in this way?
Of course, carbon investments is a new instrument for Ukraine, and we are in the initial stage of that. Our government just on the first step on establishment the emission trading scheme. This is an internal platform for trading carbon credit outcomes inside the Ukraine. It was announced that in 2025 it will be first purchasing of such carbon credits. But what was done and what was officially done in Ukraine is that monitoring, verification and reporting system is already working starting from 1st of January 2022. And the second issue that, as we all know, that Ukraine and Switzerland signed a bilateral agreement of international trade and mitigation outcomes, and it will be the real instrument for some sector to have extra investments. But as for now, the sector is not defined yet, and it's need to proper preparation, and the new business scheme should be developed in Ukraine. So we have a lot of to do, but that definitely could be a very good instrument to attract and to accumulate investments to reshape, for example, building sector and our perspectives on this field in Ukraine.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And regarding the building sector, Olena, you said you see specific environmental risks at the moment when rebuilding Ukraine, and therefore why these legislation topics are so important. Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, really. For now, I see a lot of fears. I have a lot of fears about reconstruction of Ukraine, and according to my opinion, we have in Ukraine 3 main risks. First risk is a risk of maximizing use natural resources. I can give you an example. Devastating natural areas with mandate to prevent hunger. And the second risk that trying to produce more construction rebuilding materials, we will get a lot of emission, different kinds of atmosphere emission, water emissions, wastewater and waste at all. And the third risk that the process of reconstruction is already on the way. And I have a guess that sometimes trying to build faster, some ecological standards will be violated, and we don't need to allow to do that, because other way investor will say us, okay, you are not following European standards, we are not going to support this your project or that your project, and they will get back. We don't need any way to violate ecological standards.
Thank you. I understood also, Olena, that one of the concerns is that land which has been protected so far will no more be protected in future. Mariana, I think that is one of the topics on which you are working. How would you comment on that?
Well, as you know, last Lugano Recovery Conference, so environmental component was also considered there, and I think it's one of the important items or requests from you that to invest in rebuilding Ukraine, you have to think about environmental. You have to first do environmental impact assessment, and then you have to consider also these impacts in your businesses, in rebuilding projects, right? And what I would like to highlight, and what I'm happy about, that before the war started, at least what was announced by our government was this big green Ukraine project, so regreening Ukraine. So there was a aim or target set up to increase forest cover, for example, to be able to absorb more CO2, to be able to contribute to what all the countries are now aiming to this UN decade on ecosystem restoration. So as you know, there was a huge EPBS report with almost 2,000 scientists worldwide known, that they did analysis through all the sectors, and they really, make it very clear and loud. If now all governments would not take environment restoration into consideration, within next 2 years, it will be too late, and some processes would start that we cannot stop anymore. And I was very happy that this project started, this green project was started in Ukraine, and I think, what I know from the environmental organizations and NGOs and universities that are working on environmental project, that this is also a concern in the society. And I think and I hope that it will be something that society would strongly watch during the rebuilding.
So you would like to also contribute on making people aware and watching over this? And now I would like to give a little bit provocative question to Thomas. Yeah, we want to protect the forest and so on and so forth, and you want to rebuild Ukraine in timber. How does this go together?
Yes, that's a good question. I mean, all the time you can read history in architecture. So you can see, is it Romanesque, is it Gothic, is it Rococo, is it Renaissance? And now I think it's time to see in architecture also the style of renewable technology. And this would be, this has to be something, has to do something with efficiency, with sufficiency, and with a new materialization. And there is wood, is one of the really good things to do. And I think my wish would be that we can create in architecture a new style. So you can see, you can feel, you can smell even this new style of architecture based on renewable technologies.
Well, thank you very much. So I think this is a good point that you say it's really a more comprehensive approach than simply saying I build in timber, yeah. And with regarding to renewable technologies, I would like to jump back to Olena because I'm an engineer too. Yeah, and I don't know whether you have spotted on the I think it was on the school building. You saw the solar panels in one of the projects, yeah? Very nicely done. Olena, could you comment on that? Decarbonization of residential energy supply. Yeah, like we know that a lot of district heating power stations in Ukraine have been destroyed. What can we do if we rebuild them to decarbonize?
Thank you, Miriam, for your question. I suppose it will be a little bit long response.
You can cut it
First of all, we need, when I have this question, I every time try to divide the generation and the consumption side of this question. And first of all, we need to clearly understand that first, that we need to make its consumption side. We have a very negative example of Poland, which starts the modernization of residential and commercial sector by replacement of generating facilities by new boilers. And they, of course, they have the decreasing of energy consumption, but the half of energy was not unclaimed after that. And we shouldn't do the same. Looking for energy balance in 2021, we should understand that the residential sector consumes 28% of energy, plus 8% of commercial buildings. That's up to 40% for whole sector. And 70% of those primary energy is consumed for district heating and for hot water preparation. It's a huge sector, and it should be a primary in our point of view. Then, the war brings a huge damages in our country. According to the World Bank report, we have just in housing sector damages and losses up to 70 billion euros. The government in the previous Lugano conference expected to have 178 billion investments in energy efficiency in housing sector. So it's an optimistic point of view. But we have signed an agreement with European Union, so we need to harmonize our standards and our norms, regulations for the building sector. I try to think about, I try to push you to think about the NZEB buildings, nearly zero emission buildings, and this technology in Ukraine. As we have a huge damages and almost 12,000 of multi-story buildings are destroyed in Ukraine. It could be compared with the whole Kiev multi-story buildings are completely out of operation. And if we turn back to generation, we need to follow this strategy for thermomodernization first the residential buildings, then that it will be decreasing of energy consumption from district heating. And you need to know that over the last 30 years we have a drastic decrease of energy consumption from district heating. These facilities are lost a lot their consumers. It's of course it's followed by mistaken policy, it's followed lack of long-term strategy, national strategy of Ukraine, and a lot of other things. But what is, how we can solve this? First of all,
Well, Lena,
Yeah?
I think we have a lecture on Monday.
yeah,
Olena and I together, we will give the lecture on, I think it's so relevant what you are saying, and I hope that this is a teaser for you, for the students here, to our Monday lecture, because it's absolutely important. I let you finish now.
6
yeah,
points. 6 points. 6 points.
Say is.
Phasing out subsidies, thermal district modernization strategy with multiple refinancing of funds, then electrification of district heating. It's, heat pumps, centralized electricity boilers and heat storages, waste heat from municipal, industrial and electric energy facilities, and of course biogas and substitution of natural gas by biofuels. Thank you. Sorry for a long response.
No, this is, I asked you. It was perfect. I asked you, and I think this should be the teaser for our Monday lectures. No, it's great, because it's absolutely important and relevant at the basis of everything which we discuss here. Before we finalize this panel, I would like to give the floor to you, to the audience. Are there any questions to our panelists? You've seen now where their competencies lie. Perhaps you want to know a little bit more. If not, I think I really would like to give each of you a final statement. We have now the CAS Rebuild Ukraine, and it has been successful from many perspectives so far. I hope also the audience has seen that. It will go into the second round, and I would like to ask each of you now, from your perspective, which elements are especially important from your perspective and should be taken into the next round of the CAS. Irina, would you like to comment on that?
Thank you so much, Miriam, and dear colleagues, if I may, possibly with my answer right now, I will open some mystery for the students of CIS Rebuild Ukraine. So I'm economist, and of course I take care always about enterprises, especially I love small and medium business. I do like that Switzerland in most cases is the country of SMEs, small, medium enterprises, family businesses, and I really appreciate that Switzerland support this part of business. What Ukrainian enterprises, and especially small ones, need from us, from participants of CIS, and what should we definitely bring to the second call of CIS? Our knowledge of networking. That's why, dear participants, we were insisting, use networking. Take care of each stakeholder you can imagine. Definitely we have to bring knowledge of possibility of investment, funding, crowdfunding. And we were insisting that create some concept and help your stakeholders in Ukraine to attract investors. Go to crowdfunding platforms, go to funds, NGOs, etc. Maybe right now you do understand why we're so specific. Of course, especially now, business is busy with surviving, with bringing money to the budget of our country, and not a lot of time is for self-education, to get to know what kind of new technologies are out there in the world and how we can implement them to optimize all of our operations, etc. That's why we have team. Sustainable technologies transfer team. That was the idea. So you will provide, all of you guys, you will build the bridges. And during the opening ceremony of CIS Rebuild Ukraine, I told that, guys, we count on you. And today, it's not finalizing, but I'm so proud of you. That's true. So thank you.
Thank you, Irina. Olena, brief statement. What
Very brief,
would
okay.
you... Yeah?
I would like to add to all of our projects, as we have in real life, environmental impact assessment. So before launching your project, before even trying to think about your project, just first you should think what kind of impact your project will have for our environment. And then on the base of this knowledge, you should build up your project.
Great. I think we take that. That's environmental impact assessment next time. Thank you so much.
I want to say that the best investment, this investment to people, human resource. And this CIS is investment not only to 30 students in this project, because as we saw today from presentation, every group have made this networking with stakeholders in Ukraine, in Switzerland, and this investment to much more than 30 students. And what I want to say and recommend for second class, I share this idea with Thomas, and this idea about online part of class for Ukrainian people who stay in Ukraine and who work now with Rebuilding Ukraine, and who which will support implementation of this project. For example, in local government, because this now with reform of decentralization in Ukraine, local government has more power, budget, opportunity to make rebuilding in city, in village, in small town. That's why if it's possible to organize online CAS for Ukrainian people who now in this difficult situation in war, but they work and they need this knowledge, they need this network, they need new technology, new vision, how rebuild Ukraine.
Well, thank you so much, Oksana. Online part, making it accessible online, at least the lectures. Olena, what would you say? What would you like to see in the next round?
Short answer, 4 statements. Stay optimistic. Keep your heart open. Keep your mind clean. And do all the best to help our motherland.
Thank you, Thomas. Now you will be our, I hope, consultant, yeah? I mean, you stay
Yes,
with
you can be
us.
sure.
We count on you. What would you like to see?
I mean, looking at the student projects, I must say we did well. We didn't make any mistakes. So I'm so proud on what you're doing. And I mean, for me personally, the biggest success is that we made out of this society of Tate, we made kind of family. And this is really heartbreaking. And we do for the future the same. Thank you.
Mariana, you will be our director of the program. What would you like to see in the next round?
Well, thank you very much. I mean, that's first of all, it's a big responsibility, and I'm so proud that I could take over such a great initiatives. Such a great initiative. I'm so proud that for the trust Thomas had to myself, that because we met and we started together, develop a concept, a framework, and I'm really happy, I'm very proud that I was part of this process from the beginning, and thank you for this trust that you have in myself, that I could take over this program. Yes, I would like also to share that I will share this responsibility with one more colleague, Professor Norbert Winterberg. He gone from this room, but you will know him. And what I would like to say that, yes, of course, I'm so proud. I'm very proud, and I was really amazed what you have done, and I was in touch with all the groups during the preparation to this conference, during the poster preparation, and I feel how motivated you are. And I think that we should keep this in the next round. We should keep this idea of project development, but we also have to think how to bring you to the next step. So this is our task and responsibility, and be sure we are not promising you a lot, but be sure we are thinking about that. To be continued.
Thank you. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you. I think that was a very important point, scaling up, getting to the next stage. Don't lose everything which we have built so far. Also go further with you. So that would be the panel discussion, and I would now like to invite Olena